everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today's video, as you can tell, is going to be a little different. This is a video I hoped to never have to make, but here we are. I had an experience less than 2 weeks ago that I hope none of you ever have to live, and I've gone back and forth about whether or not to even make a video, and definitely needed some time to process for myself. But I do think it's important to tell my story so that I can help hopefully somebody out there. I did a ton of research before we moved into this van, and so I knew the good, the bad, and the ugly, and I knew what we were signing up for. I've listened to stories about breakdowns and break-ins and creepy people and being assaulted verbally, whatever. I've listened to all the things, and so I knew that that was part of what could happen. It was a risk we were taking, and I still said that this was a risk willing to take to go on the adventure of a lifetime. And I also, maybe there was a part of me where I was like, well, that won't happen to us. No matter how much you see and you know it could happen, you still tell yourself it can't happen to us. But this happened to us, and yeah, I'm gonna tell the story today so that if you are somebody who's considering van life, and even if you're just somebody who camps and is outdoors a lot, that you're aware and have some tips of things I wish I would have done, and I would have done differently or been prepared to do. So let's jump into it. We were in Louisiana a couple of weeks ago. It was a Friday, and we were staying at a state park campground. So we weren't on the street or anything. We were in a campground. I don't know, feel safer in a campground. I feel like I can let my guard down a little bit because it's a campground, right? And I'm a pretty vigilant person. I've lived all over the world, and I am always watching and noticing things. But I will admit, in a campground, I do put my guard down a little bit. And now Rachel and I usually almost always go to take showers together when we're at campgrounds. We like to use the campground showers so that we don't have to use our van shower. And so we almost always go together. But it was really, really hot in Louisiana. And so we actually even got an air conditioner. And so it was actually easier to have us go one at a time. One person goes into the shower, and then the other person goes, so that when the other person comes back, you have the whole van to yourself to get ready and just be nice and cool in the AC. And so we went to the shower separately. I walked over to the shower, into the shower house, right? So if you're not familiar with camping, at the campground there's a shower house, and it has bathrooms and shower stalls. And in this one, sometimes the shower stalls are unisex on the outside. That's what some of the places we've been to. But this one, there was a women's room and there was a men's room. And when you walked into the women's room, there were toilet stalls and shower stalls. But anyways, backtrack a little bit. I actually decided to call my mom. I call my mom every day. Love you, Mom. I decided to call my mom as I was walking to the shower house. It was a short walk, and I ended up on the phone with her for 20 minutes, and I was walking around outside. There was a little playground, and I was just kind of walking and on the phone, and I noticed this guy. He was a young guy, in his early 20s, and I saw him. He kind of ran by, and I had seen him the day before running too. It was around 11 o'clock in the morning, so this wasn't at nighttime. It was in the middle of the day on a Friday. And I noticed him, and then I'm on my phone, and he's still around. He's just kind of lingering there. Now I'm on the phone for 20 minutes. He at one point stepped, and he started picking up cigarette butts and putting them in the garbage. And I was like, that's interesting. So it's not that I wasn't aware of his presence. I noticed him. I did have some weird feeling, and I was like, okay, it's fine. It's 11 o'clock in the morning. I'm just being paranoid. There's nothing wrong. So I get done with my mom, and I go into the bathroom. I hung my towel and my stuff in one of the shower stalls, and I went to one of the toilet stalls to use the restroom. When I was in the toilet stall, I heard the door open to the bathroom, and somebody went into the shower, and I noticed their water went on really quickly. And that kind of was like, that was really fast. But I was like, well, maybe they're in a rush. Who knows? Again, I'm very aware of my surroundings, so I saw and heard all of these things happening. I got out of the bathroom, I went towards the showers, and there's 3 stalls. So there was the first stall, and then a middle stall, and then where I put my stuff was in the 3rd stall against the furthest wall. Whoever the person was who had come in, they were in the first stall. The middle stall was empty, and so then I walked into the 3rd stall, started to take my shower. I did notice at one point that somebody came into the middle shower because I saw their feet. And they didn't have shower sandals or flip-flops on. And I was like, ew, gross. Who goes into a public restroom without their shower shoes or sandals? You know, that's their thing, to each their own. So I just kept it moving. I was like, okay, that's weird. Kept showering, washed my hair, put my conditioner, whole thing. I was in the shower for a little bit because I don't wash my hair every day, but that was a day that I decided to wash my hair. So I was there for a while. I go to bend down and wash my leg, and I look, and there is a man in the women's room lying naked on the floor, and what I assume looking up into my stall. He's now in the middle stall. That same man who I saw running around outside, the same man who was watching and waiting to come in to the bathroom to do this. I screamed at first. I was like, I said some bad words I'm not going to repeat on here because, you know, I don't want YouTube to take our video down. A woman came running in. She was like, are you okay? I said, no, there's a man in the bathroom. And he quickly moved back over to the first stall. He started getting dressed. He said something about he has a wife and he wasn't looking at me. And I'm like, but why were you on the ground naked, lying in the stall next to me? It turns out when he went outside, one of the staff members said to him, I already talked to you about being in the women's room. So a couple of days before, he had actually already been in there, and a woman came in and found him before she started taking a shower and was able to report it. And they kicked him. They told him to leave the bathroom, but they didn't tell him to leave the campground. And so this had already happened. That was a warning sign. Nothing was done about it. And then it happened to me. And once I rinsed off and I went outside after a bit of a cry, because I was just like, it was really shocking and it was very violating. The staff member asked me, do you want to call the police? And I was in such shock that was a hard decision to make. I was like, I don't know. I don't think when you're in that mindset, you should have to make those decisions. You work for the park, you should just call the police. And so thankfully, Rachel is my rock in those times. She's so calm in the face of a storm. And so I called her and I was like, babe, they're asking me if I should call the police. What should I do? And she was like, call the police. I'll be right there. And she came walking. I called the police. Thankfully, Jefferson Parish Police Department, shout out to them, was there very quickly. It had to be no more than 10 minutes. They came with 3 police cars. Thankfully, since the staff member told them to go back, told the guy to go back to his site, thankfully he stayed and didn't run for it, and they were able to arrest him. They asked me if I wanted to press charges, and I did. I can handle a lot, and I use humor to deflect and make light of a lot of situations. And so I almost didn't, in the moment, I wasn't thinking about myself when I pressed charges. I was thinking about the little girl I saw playing on the playground when I walked out of the bathroom and wondering what if it would have been her. I pressed charges for the next person or the next thing he does. It turns out he's only 20 years old. And to me, that's a sign of more things to come if it doesn't get stopped. And I hope that he can get some help and not continue to do those things, because I now, every time I go to a bathroom, I'm looking to see if anybody else is in there. I make Rachel come with me. I'm looking under to make sure nobody's looking under. So it's just it just broke my trust a lot. And it was a really scary situation. And so I'm bringing this here again. I wasn't even sure if I was going to share it because it is deeply personal, and I don't want to say embarrassing. It's not embarrassing. That's not what I feel. It just feels gross and emotional. But I bring it to you because Let me get myself together. If you are considering van life, and it's not even van life, like this was a campground, you could be camping. Like how many, everybody, not everybody, but a lot of people camp. And like, to a few lessons that I learned, like one, trust your instincts. Like I saw this guy, I had a weird feeling, and if I could go back in time, I would have called Rachel and said like, you know, screw the air conditioner, just come and I'll tell you what's happening. Let's shower together. Or we could have even left and maybe showered. We were going to my cousin's house. We could have showered at his house, whatever. Trust your instinct. Your instincts are there for a reason, and they were telling me something was wrong. And I heard them and said, it's fine. I also, like, my initial response was just to scream, and I really wish I would have taken my camera out and recorded just so I had evidence, because now, you know, he's claiming that that's not what he was doing and that he was just showering in there, so it's like my word against his word, and that's a crummy situation to be in. Like, this man violated my space and violated my privacy, and now I have to, like, fight that that's actually what happened. And like, I think it was even hard to explain to people. When I was explaining to police officers at first, it was kind of like, haha, I can't believe this happened. And that's partially my fault because of my sense of humor and like using humor in that way. But once I explained, like, no, it was a women's room and he shouldn't have been in there. There's a men's room right next door, and he was laying on the floor naked. Like, he wasn't just taking a shower. Like, they started to be like, oh, this was like serious. And so I wish I would have had video footage just to show what had happened. And if they ask you to press charges, like, just do it, right? Like, that is helping the next person and the next victim to hopefully not have to experience that. And maybe this young person is 20 years old. Maybe he gets the help that he needs so that he doesn't do this to somebody else in the future. It actually, like, it's kind of crazy. Like, the whole situation made the news, which I'm a little bit glad about, because the other thing I would say is, like, ask the police for the police report and get the person's name, because that was like sitting with me for days. I was like, I don't even know this guy's name. Like, I don't even know how to look him up to see like if anything happened. Like, I knew nothing. And so luckily there was a news story and it has his name in it, and I was able to see like a little bit more about him. But I'm not deterred. Like, we're still gonna go and enjoy this adventure. I almost didn't tell my mom. You know, I tell you, I call my mom for everything. I was like, I can't tell her. She's already panicking about us being on this adventure, and she's going to freak out even more. But I did call her, and she said, you know, I'm kind of happy it happened, because, you know, it was a scary situation, but nothing physically happened to you. And now, like, it's a reminder to just be vigilant and trust your instincts, because, like, my instincts are good and I am, like, hyper vigilant. You can see I knew every detail of what happened. I just didn't trust my instincts, and I let myself, like, put my guard down too much. And I think that's a tricky balance to have when you're living in a van, because you don't want to be so guarded that you miss out on all the beauty, and so scared that you miss out on the adventures and the experiences, but you have to balance that with keeping yourself safe. So, yeah, thank you for listening to my story today. It's actually, I feel some level of relief just telling the story. I'm a verbal processor, and so being able to tell my story feels empowering. And I hope that you can take some of the lessons I learned in this experience and not have to live through what I just lived through. And if you are somebody who has a similar experience, like, feel free to reach out, and, you know, I'd love to talk, because I think that's helpful as well. And we'll be back to our regular, you know, fun adventure content, and I know this video was like a lot different from our normal content, but I did think it was an important story to tell, and so I told it, and hopefully that'll be the last of our crazy encounters. I hope and I pray, and if not, I'll be more ready next time if something like this were to happen.